All right, guys, welcome back. So, this episode, I'm going to talk about how I look at the economic calendar and how I actually trade news events and how I can plan my week in advance. So, if you guys haven't studied at all any of these ICT weekly range profiles, this is a really good infographic. It's made by Tani Vizla, and she's a graphic designer, but essentially she compiled all this information into an easy to read infographic essentially on how you can just look at the calendar and predict what the week might do. So if we can just go over each one of these, and when we get towards the end, it'll kind of just tie into why I was mostly on the sidelines this week. This week's been an NFP week. If you're watching this, in the future, or so we have a classic Tuesday low of the week. Now, Monday is going to be our manipulation, right, or accumulation. And then Tuesday, right, we'll see that manipulation move and then a distribution up till Thursday, with Friday closing back in the range. So when you're looking at this, essentially you want to see Monday maybe have a light news day, and then Tuesday maybe there's CPI print or something of the sorts that will provide the high or the low of the week. So essentially, it's the same thing here, right? So on a bullish week, right, price is hovering above a higher time frame discount array on Monday, and then it drops into that high time frame discount array on Tuesday, forming the low of the week. So let's say if there's Monday and then Tuesday, let's say if Monday provides a candle and then we have a fair value gap maybe below the Monday's low. Well, we'll go take out Monday's low, fill that fair value gap, and then maybe on the news we're gonna push higher, right? So that's essentially how I'm building in sentiment ahead of time. Like if I look at the calendar and I see a high impact news event on Tuesday, right? I might expect the low or the high of the week to be put in, depending if I'm bullish or bearish. So that covers these two. All right. So if there's a high impact news on Tuesday, etc., you might see London open or New York session low or high of the week. So Wednesday, many times this Wednesday profile can occur when there's FOMC on Wednesday or some other high impact news event. So you're gonna have to just check the calendar each day going into the week to see what this profile might look like. And we can just go over some examples of, a specific calendar. But a lot of times you'll see, a Wednesday high or low of the week if we have like an interest rate announcement, FOMC, consolidation midweek rally, or consolidation Thursday reversal. So let's go through consolidation Thursday reversals. Now, a lot of times, yeah, this will happen after FOMC, right? FOMC might make the lower the high of the week, or they might keep it in consolidation, and then Thursday they'll use that to drive it. So, how to anticipate, right? I mean, you can kind of take your time and read through these. I will attach this document to the actual lesson so you can kind of read through this, and it's kind of on you to do this work and watch these profiles pan out week to week, right? So, how to anticipate it, identify a high time frame discount array, and when the market fails to drop into it. So, let's say if we have FOMC, right, and it drops, but there's a high time frame discount array that's lower. Well, Thursday post FOMC might tap that low, and then we'll have a Thursday low or high of the week, right? So we'll have consolidation Monday through Wednesday. Price runs the intra-week high or low, and then rejects and forms a reversal. So midweek rally, we might have a week where there's like no news Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, right? And then we'll have a rally on Thursday or a decline on Thursday. So these are the ones that I want you guys to pay attention to this week, and this is exactly what I was anticipating going into this week, right? So we had July 4th holiday, we had FOMC, and we had non-farm payroll. So this makes this week extremely range bound and seek and destroy. So like if we go over to, just as an example, right? Let me just zoom in here. I'm just gonna remove a lot of this information. I probably don't need to see all this stuff. If you just look at Monday's price action, Tuesday's price action, Wednesday's price action, Thursday's price action. I did not see anything that was worth trading any of these days. Right? We have fair value gaps that are being violated. Right? If I just draw some of these out in time, I mean, we have this order block that was respected a bit, but I mean, that was a decent setup on Wednesday. If we look at the calendar, let's go to the Forex Factory. So Wednesday, we had FOMC meeting minutes. When did that come out? This was all the way up here. So this market kind of moved sideways and then started dropping ahead of FOMC. So this is not really anything that I would be when we have 2 p.m. 2 a.m. So we didn't have anything early, so we don't really know what the spike was. But in my opinion, if you're trying to trade this intraday, look, up, down. Like this is very sloppy leading up into FOMC. And for the most part, I'm usually sidelines for FOMC. Do we have anything on Tuesday? Tuesday was July 4th, right? So this day, even though there was a bit of a move lower, all right, it's only 23 pips. This is not enough for me to participate in the market. It's really tight. Monday was possibly the only setup that I would have looked at 10 a.m. All right, 10 a.m. Put this nice candle in. We took out Friday's high and then sold off. All right, so if we go back to our range profile, right, this is our seek and destroy. Even though Monday provided a decent run, the rest of the days were very choppy, right? And we're expecting what, a low of the week on Thursday? What do we get? A low of the week on Thursday, right? We took out Wednesday's overnight low, and that was our low of the week. All right, so heading into Friday, right, we have seek and destroy bullish Friday. How to anticipate it? Market is awaiting interest rate announcement or non-farm payable. Usually creates this profile in summer months of July and August. Right, so if we're expecting this market profile to occur during the summer months, like you have to be nimble enough to not try and hold for large moves. Okay, so during the summertime, it can be very tricky to try and trade. So that's kind of how I anticipate my weekly profiles. Like you're gonna have to go through and study all of this because reading all this and actually putting it into practice is totally different. So let's go into some weeks. Right. So we had leading up, we had FOMC meeting minutes right on Wednesday. Um, ADP non-farm employment change, right? There wasn't Thursday was very sloppy to me. Like there's some moves in here. Yeah, you get shorted when you get up here, but you're really shorting this rejection block. Um, and then you had to have exited towards the lows. And then there was an opportunity to go long past that, right around London close, right? So I mean, you could have went long on Thursday and just held it the whole time, but holding into NFP is not advisable. All right. So those are there's three different news events that I don't trade, and that's CPI, FOMC rate announcements, and NFP. Okay. So every other red news I typically trade, or I'm more cautious of. But those other three that I just mentioned, I typically will just be sidelined for the most part. And I'll go into my trade review in a different video, but I will post this to the lesson. Let's see if we can go back a week, right? So last week, what do we have? Right, we had Monday, not really doing a whole lot. Tuesday, we had consumer confidence. Wednesday, Fed Chair Powell speaks. So last week, based on the news on Monday and Tuesday, right, you possibly could have seen Tuesday or Wednesday high or low of the week, right? And then Thursday, right, 8:30 might have capped the other end of the range, right? And that's kind of what you just have to go back and study. Right, Thursday didn't cap the low end of the range. Friday actually did, but right, we had Tuesday high of the week. Right, Tuesday at 9 a.m. What do we have? We had 10 a.m. consumer conference. Right, so 10 a.m. on Tuesday. This was last week, right? This is a 10 a.m. candle. This was the high of the week. All right, so this is your Monday. It's manipulating up. Right? If you plot this opening price here, this is for the week. All right. So when it's trading up on Monday, right? Tuesday we just hit one standard deviation, and that was the high of the week. All right. So Wednesday was the opportunity. 9:30 a.m. Powell spoke. So 9:30 a.m. Right, we had this sell off, and I believe I got short, and this is where I scaled in, and then we had a major sell off here. All right, what was Thursday? 2:30 a.m. Let's see if there was a move during London. All right, 2:30 a.m. kind of just took out a lot of this liquidity. I'm not exactly sure why he was speaking at 2:30 a.m. Right, because it's a we're based in the U.S. I'm not sure why he was up that early speaking. Right, but this is kind of what you have to go back and study, just back test, right? What did we do overnight? We took out Wednesday's low, and then we ran liquidity almost up to the first standard deviation of the Asian range. Right, so what day is that? Thursday. Right, so Thursday we had that press in London, right? And then what is New York going to do? New York is either going to continue or reverse. So 8:30 a.m. Boom, major sell off. Friday, low of the week. Do we have anything on Friday? 8:30 a.m. core PCE. So 8:30 a.m. was this. Boom. Usually, again, when we get towards the end of the week, Thursday or Friday, like if you go back and look at all these range profiles, Thursdays and Fridays can cap the end of cap the high or the low of the week. All right. So many times you're not going to see continuation on Friday. Right. We had this massive sell side imbalance. They just want to go refill that. Right. They use that order block again, send it lower. All right. So using the calendar, um, again, this is a lot of this can be subjective. It's more about taking these ideas and forecasting it on your own and expecting certain profiles. Right. So during NFP week, during the summer months, right, we're gonna expect really sloppy conditions. So with that, I will end this recording, and I'm gonna post this ICT weekly range profiles template by Tanya Vizla. If you guys have any questions, just let me know.